Related to the following. 6-1, briefing on the status of Golden Gate Fields property.
So I've provided you with two different articles that kind of send two completely different messages, which is, the first is from the LA Times in October, where well, to give you a little background history, maybe you all know this, but the Golden Gate Fields was purchased by a corporation established by Frank Stronach. Stronach is a Canadian industrialist. He made literally billions of dollars selling car parts. His passion is horse racing. He bought a bunch of tracks. He formed a corporation, bought a bunch of tracks throughout the country, and a few years later, that corporation went bankrupt. Out of that bankruptcy proceeding, he got to keep a few of the assets. Golden Gate Fields is one of those assets. Santa Anita down in Southern California is another one. I think there's one or two others on the East Coast. Well, one of them is in Baltimore, which is the subject of the second article. So he now controls these tracks in his family trust. He's in his 80s, 86, according to the LA Times, and it doesn't surprise me that there might be a family dispute over his estate after he dies, but apparently it's starting up before he has died. And it's an interesting situation when you can sue your daughter for $520 million. But that's what this article is essentially reporting. It quotes the operators of the track in Southern California saying it's not having any effect on the operation of the track. And we haven't heard anything about it having an effect. The other article is from Baltimore Magazine, and it's from earlier this year. And it's kind of a profile, I guess, of the daughter Melinda, who is the executive director or something, whatever, the CEO of the family trust. And it goes on a little bit about her background. She was a member of the Canadian Parliament for a while, and talks about wanting to invest in the racetrack business. And I don't know what to say about it other than it's you kind of two different messages. Sure. A family with a lot of money and with some dispute, some issues, obviously. We hear very little from Golden Gate Fields. And things we do hear are related to activities that they want to do in their parking lot, and we're encouraging that. And generally, I think it's a good idea that they use their assets is if it's appropriate for the waterfront setting. The most recent one that took a little while for us to work out, but we eventually approved it, was for a evening DJ fun run. And it's called National Night Out. It's some sort of an organization that sponsors these things all over the country. It's presumably, or it's kind of packaged as a fundraiser for Stand Up to Cancer, but it's a DJ concert, and you go there and you drink and you go for a run and then you dance and you go home, which, okay. And we approved that, and then they didn't go forward with the event. We would be thrilled if they would do things that would be a little bit more, I think, more complementary to the waterfront setting, and maybe a nighttime DJ event. The other thing they did a few years ago that also kind of ended up not happening was a cannabis-related event. They call it the Cannabis Cup. I think it's held nowadays in Sonoma County Fairgrounds, or it was for a while, and that's a big event. They ended up pulling the plug on that because they didn't really have enough parking to do it. So that's what we hear about from them in terms of economic-related activity, and otherwise, they seem to be doing okay in the track business. We don't have any insight into their business operations other than what taxes they pay. And just to kind of give you a sense of scale over time, back in 2007, 2008, the city got a little over $1 million a year from them. And so about half of that was property tax, and the other half was our share of wagering. We get a certain percentage of that. The share of wagering in 2007, 2008 was $590,000. And in 2016, 17, the most recent data I have, it was 264. So 590 to 264. Our share of it, and we only get the share that actually happens physically at the track. So if you use an app or you're doing it from home, we don't get our share of that. So activity, wagering on site
All right.
seems to be a fading business. As all of you who live in town know, we have been increasing taxes for various agencies. And so their share of taxes to the city is increasing originally from 473,000 to 607,000. So overall, we're getting 872,000 a year from the racetrack, most recent year that I have, which is down a little bit, but not, still, that's, for us, that's serious money.
Significant, yep.
Yeah, that's, that's 4 or 5% of our general fund budget.
Okay, anything else?
No, that's what I have. Be
Any
happy to answer
comment on
questions.
the status of Golden Gate Field?
I have a question. Is there like one person, a contact you have there, or does it change, or has that changed? Like, is there a name or someone you can call? I'm just wondering what the relationship is.
Yeah. It kind of depends. David Dugan, I believe is how his name is pronounced, is the general manager. He's been there for a few years, and I've had some contacts with him a couple times. There are different different elements of the organization that we hear from. The people who do the promotions seem to cycle through all the time, and it's a new name every time somebody proposes something. The manager, Claire, you'll have to remind me his name.
Which manager?
The facilities manager, the guy that you're dealing. Yeah,
Roy Roenfeld?
he's been there a while, right?
Guy, but
Dugan.
the other guy, I can't remember his name now. He's gone.
Yeah. Oh, Mark something.
Oh, Mark Ventresca.
He's gone.
He's there.
Oh.
Sorry, forgot
So
about him.
we have various contacts. It's a
Understood.
kind of a complicated group.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mark is good.
No?
Just
From
seems
the-
like with all that land over there, it's just an underutilization of not only the land, but also the revenue to the city, potential revenue to the city. It's crazy.
I don't, in theory, I mean, it'd be interesting to see what that would be, because 800,000 is a significant amount. If you do housing, that's not necessarily a big revenue generator based upon service requirements. And then you look at what the retail landscape is, and that's going a different direction. So I'm not saying, to your point, the highest and best use is always a question. We're maybe not supposed to talk about that yet, but to me, that's always something we should be thinking about as a committee, but we take direction from the council on that, I guess.
Right. Well, actually, you'll take direction from the voters because of Measure C. Any change to the zoning designation in the waterfront needs voter approval.
True, but the initiation of that
Initiation
discussion,
of the
right?
council.
Any other question before I go to the public?
Well, I do remember when Alan and I had stopped there, we were working with them to control. And one of what was his name?
Ryan Hilton.
Up there was talking about that one large chunk of the building in the backside that isn't really being used for anything, and they've been looking and trying to find different ideas that would work along with that. And so I know that was something that they were looking into and trying to do something, beneficial and increase activity.
The last one was a bowling alley.
Yeah, we tried to connect the Albany Bowl, Ken Friedman at Albany Bowl, well, we did connect them to try to see if they could fit a bowling alley into that area.
Yeah, so, Ryan seemed like he had a lot of energy and a lot of really, ready to do something. So, I thought he was a pretty good contact down there, but I don't know exactly what his specific
Okay.
position is now. And I thought the online wagering versus because when you were talking about the size of number, the amount had decreased, and I think it's because that's
Sure. Good, thank you. Any other comments? With that, let's go on to discussion of uses for parcel adjacent to Target.
Yes, so this is in response to your earlier meeting, your meeting last month where you wanted to have an opportunity to talk about what might go into the parcel that's being created by Target and possibly communicate something to Target about that. To get you oriented here, expand this out a little bit. Bear with me a second. So this is the existing condition of the Target store. Here's East Shore up here, and this is the driveway in. What Target is proposing is to demolish the garden center that they haven't been using for a few years, create more parking. I'll show you that graphic in a second. So they would move the parking closer to the building here, and then they want to subdivide this parcel back here and presumably sell it or lease it to another, hopefully complementary retail business. They've not given us any indication what they have in mind, and I think it would be an interesting discussion for you if you have some ideas that you'd like us to communicate to Target, and so that we can start that dialogue. Up to this point, we've really been dealing with a civil engineer on the technical parts of this, so we haven't had any direct conversations with the Target real estate people in Minnesota, but we'd kind of like to start that discussion sometime soon.
Thank you. Any comments from the board? If not, I have a question. Do we have an idea of the size of that out parcel?
I could figure it out real quick.
Roughly?
Let's see if it's on this sheet. No, there it froze up.
Uh-oh.
It's a really large document, so if I try to, I can use.
Target, what do you want?
I can do it just really quick here. I think this will give me, well, no, this isn't the right version. I'm going to guess it's probably, just eyeballing, probably about an acre and a half.
You think it's an acre and a half?
Yeah. While you're discussing this, I can,
Because,
is it 1.1?
That's what I have in my notes.
Okay,
okay,
I believe you.
so that's significant. Is it square or is it kind of rectangular?
It's mostly rectangular. Try to reopen it again. Let's do that one sheet. So I'll zoom in on it.
And what's the zoning?
Right now, it is what we call CMX, commercial mixed use. So a wide range of potential uses are allowed, but any use requires a use permit, which is okay, really. It doesn't add a step to the process because there would be construction of a building here anyhow. So whatever's proposed, it would be approved, both a use permit and design review at the same time.
Do you, so something pops in my mind would be a hotel. But it would have to, most likely limited stay type of hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And if you said mixed use, then I would assume you would allow residential there.
We could.
So that would be interesting. Mixed use project there.
Yeah.
We probably need housing more than, if we actually look at the need,
Well,
it seems like that's the biggest problem around here right now.
it's interesting because
No
there's,
one looking to buy or rent that's affordable.
so that comes to mind. It would be, because if you get a hotel, you can definitely get some sales. I think that's a need. I mean, that's a definite, I think a need or I think they're in the market, so to speak, hotel uses. So, and then to your point, yes, housing is needed and mixed use could be interesting. my quick assessment. Any other brainstorm?
I would say prior to Emeryville, housing or hotel next to a freeway and a railroad track would be questionable, but apparently the technology exists where it doesn't impact residents that much.
Yeah, you
So,
can look at Berkeley, 4th Street, and
you would be surrounded by freeway and trains.
What would you think about another, I'm not proposing this,
Yeah.
but a reaction from you about another auto use?
I think that would be good. I just don't think it's big enough, per se. Usually they want 2 acres. Obviously, this is a more urban type of situation, but they would need maybe like the gentleman owns the Subaru. He could use that to leverage what he has to make a better situation for himself currently, or take another brand and he has the facilities to maneuver that. But usually the brands are separate to some degree, so.
The Albany Toyota space is owned by Toyota Berkeley, actually. Tim Southwick is the Southwick family. And they might be interested in buying it and combining it into a larger parcel.
But do you think it would be a new dealer, or do you
Tim has
think-
been looking for a new dealer.
I mean, so not a pre-owned cars, it'd be, to me, that would be the, Ideal.
I think his vision, the reason he built this building originally is kind of a speculative auto dealership, and he hasn't been able to sell it or lease it out, at least on terms.
that's probably the reason, because if he has that, if he can get that, then that would make sense.
So the fiscal impacts are great. It is maybe not kind of urban village by the bay type of
No.
themed use, but that's, and whether it complements other businesses in town, you all have the guidance, give us expertise on that.
Remind me, what's at the, that building immediately next door to Toyota? I know it's been a Halloween store. It's been a
Yeah, it's
tile
a tile shop, Xander Walker, Xander or Xander Walker? It's kind of high-end tile. So building the material type of related use might be a complement floor dimensions and the lumber liquidator kinds of uses.
Okay,
I don't see ever pulling cars in the parking lot, but the
No.
tile shop.
No.
When it was the country, it's down there all the time, but I don't see a lot of.
And are you aware of the status of the Gilman Street project in terms of shutting off the mouth of the south entrance of East Shore? Is that continuing forward, or?
Slowly, yes.
can you repeat that? I didn't hear that. What?
The Gilman Street rebuild,
Oh,
essentially.
you mean that roundabout thingy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's- If you were looking at this parcel, you'd want to know that the south access is going to be eliminated.
Good
Or,
point.
It will
I
be
guess-
changed.
Yeah, you'll
Way-
get there, but around a block.
It's going to be a zigzag on Second to East Shore, and we're insisting that they do some things to dress up Second Street in Berkeley so that it's not such a unpleasant detour that it is today.
Is there a sign currently out there on that parcel? Like, I thought I saw something that,
On this parcel?
like, I thought it was like a public meeting notice type of thing I thought I saw the other day, but it wouldn't have been. Okay. All right, any other comments from the committee?
Can you see that parcel from the road?
Not really. So the other question will become signage.
What, say that again?
The other question that would come up if we get someone who's interested in this is how does their signage fit in with the other businesses?
Good point.
How tall can it be?
Well, historically, we've resisted the big monument signs that sometimes see at other freeway, any other retail areas facing freeways. So the Target, the actual Target sign and the Toyota sign are pretty, I think, maybe 8 or 10 feet. Obviously, the red dot on the side of the Target building is kind of a clue of what that one is. But we might have to revisit that for a business to be
For sure.
successful.
How tall can a building
Building,
be?
yeah.
A building, I think, can be 45 feet.
how many stories is 45 feet?
like 5, 4.
4 maybe, depending on on how you want to.
Can that be amended at all for, through the use permit process, or is that kind of the,
The signage
no,
or the height?
the height of a building?
In this case, I'm not sure that it could be. Those heights can be adjusted sometimes for residential development through various bonuses and so forth, but if it's strictly commercial, I'm not sure that we could do that without amending the zoning code.
Okay.
Which, if something came along that was really great, wouldn't mind doing that.
Okay, is there any comments from the public?
That's, yeah, the USDA, I think, I've only been in it once. I think it's a 4-story building, so it's probably 55 feet, 55 feet, maybe even more if you count the exhaust vents on the roof.
Yeah, but I thought Belmont took it, though, for height.
Belmont, I think, was 52 or something like that, if I remember correctly.
I mean, that is most stories.
I thought that was 5.
Okay. Any other, yes?
While you're talking about this, right down to the south, I guess, is that, what do you call it, plaza, shopping plaza kind of place that has a body shop and a muffler shop. And we always talk about, not being thrilled with all the auto repair that's on Seventh Avenue. Of course, I always think to myself, well, where am I going to fix my car? It disappeared. But, just as a wild thought, if there was some way to build sort of multiple units of auto repair, since people on Seventh Avenue move there, free up space on Seventh Avenue.
Okay. Anything else?
Whatever the size of that, half of it would have to be for parking, depending on what kind of building goes in there, right?
Probably something around that range, yeah, depending on,
When that line over is probably gonna have to all stay parking.
Yeah. And then, which puts it way behind, well behind, Albany Toyota.
All right,
That's a rough spot.
thank you. Anything else on this one? Then let's move on to Economic Development Strategic Plan Update.
I'm sorry, Ann's not here for more details on this, but we are planning to go to the city council with an ordinance at their next meeting on the parking. The Planning and Zoning Commission completed their discussion and will be, I'm pretty sure it will be on the next commission agenda to adjust the parking process.
You can just quickly say what that,
Oh, again, I'm sorry, I haven't been directly
Yeah, I know,
involved
but
in it,
just in
but
general.
to modify the Planning and Zoning Commission's review process for parking exceptions in commercial districts. Right now, a business comes in an existing space, they have a change in use that increases the parking requirements, but there's no physical place to put parking. We still go through a permit process, and
so streamlined.
so what streamline that.
That sounds good. Okay, any other updates that we need to know about?
I had a quick
Right.
question. How did the flavored tobacco study session go the other day? Monday, I guess.
It was Monday night. It was before the regular meeting. It was very well attended. And I think the direction out from city council was to prepare an ordinance to prohibit the sale of the flavored tobacco in Albany.
And then what about the vaping?
I don't recall, I wasn't in that discussion, so I'm not sure what the direction on the vaping was.
Cool, thanks.
Any other comment on economic development updates? Public? Great, thank you. Future agenda items. Do we have anything from the committee for future?
Well, something I keep talking about, and it still hasn't made it on the agenda yet, it's just kind of an assessment about parking. Just a general, bring the periscope up and see where we're at. Are we losing spaces? Are we gaining spaces in town? Kind of what's happening. I know that there was a Caltrans operation on San Pablo within city limits that created a lot of red zones near corners, and some of them made a lot of sense. Most of them made a lot of sense, actually. But at some point, you know, is there a scoreboard being kept? You know, I just don't know what that looks like, what that means. But I just know that, you know, parking's obviously a concern for everyone, so.
Okay, any other items? Public?
Just want to say one thing as far as a thank you to Jeff and everybody else who was involved on the email. There was some sewer lines being redone, some maintenance being done with the water and East Bay mud testing, and these big two huge tankers being put right in front of Toy Go Round and Brett Marie's and on Black Friday of all days. So Toy Go Round was like, oh, my sales, this is the worst ever. Anyway, so I emailed and you guys got right on it.
Right on it, yeah.
Appreciate taking the time to get that resolved for them.
Robert and Mark and Public Works deserve 100% of the credit.
Yeah, I actually was up there doing a Girl Scout meeting that evening and saw, not Mark, but.
Robert?
Robert, yeah, Robert talked to the Toy Go Round lady that evening.
He's awesome.
And Mark Hurley's awesome, too. I'm a big fan of Mark Hurley.
Just wanted to put that out and say thank you.
Yep,
You're welcome.
excellent.
Great, so we have one future agenda item that we
Great.
know
We'll
about.
be happy to take a shot at that.
Happy holidays to everyone, and with that, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
And we will have a first meeting in, I know it's kind of close to the first, and people take vacations. I'm here,
How are you?
but,
We decided.
because the first Thursday is what, the day after?
I think we decided we were canceling January because
Kind of
it's
what
too
the
close to
impression
the
that I got
first.
was.
Okay,
So that's what I told Stephanie. We'd
otherwise-
see her in February.
so February,
Yeah, otherwise it'd be kind
well
of.
then, Happy New Year.
Yeah, because otherwise we can't post the agenda.
Right.
Yeah.
I knew there was some
Thank you, you too.
thing.
Thank you.
Okay. February
And then
7th.
Robert gives his respects. There was a client emergency he had to break away.